Summary. I'm sure you're tired of this question, but where the hell did your quirk come from? Midoriya was ready, bullshit excuse pre-prepared. Oh, I got it in a pack of Pokemon cards. I was just flipping through them and wham! He accentuated his point with jazz hands. I suddenly had exploding bones of the density of helium. Honestly, it was just an average Friday. Pokemon cards. Shinsou clarified. Yuh-huh? Midoriya is doing a pretty damn good job at dismissing any suspicions involving his quirk. Truly, who would be able to realize he wasn't telling the truth? Chapter 1. The Art of Deception 1. Midoriya wasn't the best at lying. Truthfully, he was rather shit at it. This, however, didn't stop others from believing him in a manner that was honestly concerning. This apparent talent was coming in rather useful, though, so he couldn't really complain. Oh, Suku, it's been so long, Inko called, tackling her son in a tight hug. Midoriya squawked in surprise, barely keeping himself from falling over backwards. Mom, what are you doing here? He exclaimed, managing to get over his shock at remarkable speed. Well, I thought I'd visit you and your classmates to see how you're getting on. You've only been in the dorms for a few months, but it feels so much longer, she smiled. I brought snacks, too. Midoriya grinned softly, allowing himself to melt into the hug for just a moment more. Would you like to see my room? Ida couldn't help me decorate it. Inko nodded and followed her son to his designated space. The student proudly opened his door to reveal a room that was covered in a plethora of hero merchandise. Upon closer inspection, Inko was able to spot some pencil sketches taped up haphazardly, along with a collection of photos of not only his friends but himself too. Oh, Suku, she spoke softly. It's wonderful. And it was, but unfortunately that was not the complete purpose of Inko's visit. Actually, Izuku, I have a small question if you don't mind me asking, of course. Midoriya tensed slightly. Sure, what is it? Where did you get your quirk from? The teenager gulped. It's just, you were quirkless and now, well, you're not. Oh, it's not that interesting, honestly. I won it in a raffle a while ago. The second place winner got some Hawk sunglasses, but I think my prize was a lot better. Inko nodded thoughtfully. Was this the one where you had to write 3 pages on commentary of your favorite hero fight? Midoriya nodded, suddenly wiping his hands on his bedsheets and relieved that his mother believed him. Do you think we should go offer my classmates those snacks? Of course. After that, you can tell me about your analysis books. Bakugo scowled at the floor, only because if he were to scowl at Midoriya, it would require him to turn around in his seat. Right, 1A, you did great today, so make sure to rest up for tomorrow, Aizawa spoke, a voice refusing to portray any emotion in a rather on-brand manner. Midoriya, let's talk, Bakugo spoke, and Midoriya resisted the urge to flinch at the fact that he had used his name. Actually, I have some He was rudely cut off by Bakugo grabbing his collar of his shirt and tugging him away. Midoriya raised an arm towards Ida as he was being dragged towards the unused changing rooms, and the taller teenager repeated the action back until they faded out of each other's sight. Cut the bullshit, Deku! Where the fuck did your quirk come from? Bakugo hissed, narrowly avoiding the urge to set off a small explosion. It's not that simple, Kachan, he responded, taking a step away from his classmate. Not that simple, my ass! Just tell me the truth, loser! Midoriya decided that this was the perfect time to put his lying skills to use. I actually sold my soul, he lied, barefaced. Your soul? Bakugo deadpanned. To whom, exactly? Just some guy. The student narrowed his eyes, blinking slowly before sighing deeply and shrugging. That sounds pretty fucking simple to me, Deku. Midoriya nodded meekly and slipped out of the situation as soon as the opportunity arose. He's going to be so proud of my deceptions, Midoriya muttered under his breath, grinning widely. The final exam, not only designated to be difficult, but the one thing in his way between Midoriya and a much-needed training camp. He was trying to break his bones less, okay? He held his breath and aimed another kick at Aizawa's head, smirking happily as it made contact. Ida, Tenya, and Midoriya Izuku passed the final exam, a voice called out, and Midoriya exhaled deeply. He could barely make out Ida's figure, fist pumping from the exit gate. Thankfully, the pair were able to change out of their costumes and into comfortable clothes, so Ida and Midoriya both walked side by side to the designated changing rooms. Midoriya may have been absolute dog shit at reading emotions, but it only took a glance at the confused look on his classmate's face for him to realize something was up. Hey, what's wrong, Ida-kun? The taller boy eyed the floor hesitantly, one arm halfway through his shirt, before he gathered the confidence to speak. Well, Midoriya-kun, I saw the post your previous classmate made about you. It turned out that a student from Elder had gotten absolutely hammered and decided to bitch about his formerly quirkless ex-classmate online. Thankfully, only 80% of Japan had seen it so far. Oh, that, you stated intelligently. Now, personally, it is not my business how you caught a quirk, but I want you to know that if you need to talk about anything, I'm here for you. And I'm really good at keeping secrets. I would give you examples, but... Ida trailed off. Oh, it's nothing really. I was just bit by an angry raccoon one day and my bones decided that they preferred being in more than one piece. You know how it is. He shrugged. A raccoon? Interesting, Ida replied thoughtfully. Yeah, I got the scar from the bite and everything. He pulled up his sleeve to reveal a rather nasty scar that was identifiable as a bite. By sheer coincidence, he had actually been bitten by a raccoon, but unfortunately it hadn't given him his quirk, as far as he was aware, that is. Well, thank you for trusting me, Midoriya-kun. I'm glad we're at this stage of friendship. Midoriya smiled widely in order to hide the growing anxiety causing his hands to shake slightly. Yep. Midoriya felt swindled, deceived, and hoodwinked. He was forced to sit next to his teacher for calm knows how long, just because his quirk was unstable and defied all logical reason. It wasn't Midoriya's fault that his quirk had suddenly mutated and bestowed the ability to float into the sun upon him. Aizawa glared at him silently, and it took a moment for Midoriya to realize that there were buzzing notifications on his phone were being sent by his teacher. He glanced down at the device, squinting to read the message. You know you can talk to me, right? Nobody else is going to overhear with how loud they're being. Midoriya frowned. Well then, I suppose you already suspect what I'm asking about? Barely resisting the overwhelming urge to roll his eyes, Midoriya nodded. I'm guessing it's about my quirk. That's correct. Well, I just asked Kami really, really nicely, you know? He was given a blank stare. You asked really, really nicely. Yep, Midoriya responded, with the full confidence of a man who was lying through his teeth. I'm very convincing, Aizawa-sensei. Aizawa nodded slowly. I'm sure you are. The rest of the ride was so painfully awkward that Midoriya was happy to get pushed off the ledge by the wild-eyed pussycats. Midoriya was being stared at. It didn't take much to notice, honestly. Shinsou wasn't exactly trying to hide it, unless there was something that meant that Midoriya wasn't supposed to notice the taller teenager glaring holes into the back and front of his head. He was planning on ignoring it, considering how it was almost certainly about his quirk, and he was pretty fucking tired of people asking about it. It wasn't like he could exactly tell them that he'd gotten it from fucking All Might, was it? Anyway, he promised he'd keep it a secret, and Midoriya always kept his promises. Except for that one time, but that didn't count. His excellent plan of ignoring the whole borderline stalking went straight into the bin when he almost choked on the note Shinsou had stuck in his meal. He'd narrowly avoided needing Ida to do the Heimlich maneuver. The note, far too short for the trouble it had caused, was simply instructions to meet the other boy in a secluded area by the rocky raised land that he stumbled upon during training. It took Midoriya a while to not only gather up the courage and a feasible lie, but also to get to the arranged spot. He was less than skilled at remembering locations. Once he finally arrived, brushing the debris off of his rather lovely shirt that cost a whole 500 yen, he stood up fully, coming face to face with Shinsou himself. Taking a large step back, Midoriya cleared his throat. Right, this is not my quirk, so ask away. Shinsou raised a questioning eyebrow. Rather forward of you, no? Shinsou-san, you're the, fifth person to ask me about it? I know this. He wildly gestured to their surroundings. The whole thing by now. Unless you're here to, hide my body where no one will find it. Can we get this over with? The heroic student stared blankly for a moment, before blinking and opening his mouth to speak again. I'm sure you're tired of this question, but where the hell did your quirk come from? Midoriya was ready, bullshit excuse pre-prepared. Oh, I got it in a pack of Pokemon cards. I was just flipping through them and wham! He accentuated his point with jazz hands. I suddenly had exploding bones and the density of helium. Honestly, it was just an average Friday. Pokemon cards, Shinsou clarified. Yuh-huh. Okay then, when'd you get it? Midoriya pretended to ponder for a second. 6 months ago, maybe? And with that, Shinsou walked off. A small child with a horned hat crept out of the shadows and scared the living shit out of Midoriya. Midoriya failed to realize that the aforementioned child had been there for the whole conversation. Midoriya had atrocious spatial awareness. Chapter 2. Mwahahahaha. 2. Summary. Does this count as a plot twist? Luck was not commonly on Midoriya's side. This presented itself in situations like being born quirkless, only finding pens with no ink, and, more recently, being fucking kidnapped. Midoriya was willing to bet money this is about his quirk at this point. Once he was finally able to remove his blindfold, he was greeted by a room of strangers. There was a teenager with well-kept blonde hair, some dude resembling a possum, if the aforementioned possum were a criminal, a dude who could only be described as scraggly, and a rather well-dressed adult with a dapper hat. Of course, there were some other people, but Midoriya wasn't able to decipher much about them. You've got to be fucking kidding me, Midoriya muttered. Ah, how lovely of you to grace us with your consciousness, Midoriya, the scraggly man said. Who are you? The man blinked, as if offended. What? I'm Shigaraki. Midoriya squinted. Have we met? Have we? I attacked your school. Twice. Oh, that dude. Why'd you give at me? Shigaraki glanced at the floor. You know how to beat the claw machine. He stepped aside to reveal a rather large claw machine that had somehow been hidden behind him. Kurogiri won't let me use my quirk on it, and I really want his hand stitch Eraserhead plush. Sure enough, Midoriya was able to vaguely make out a plush that looked somewhat like his teacher. You kidnapped me for a game? How do you even know I can do it? Shigaraki shrugged. I saw you at the mall, where you won the prize a kid wanted and then walked off with it. Oh, is that why he was crying? I thought he was in awe of my skills. Midoriya mused out loud. Well, the student shrugged. At least it's not another question about my quirk. Shigaraki inhaled sharply, shuffling his feet slightly. Of course, Midoriya groaned. He glanced down at his restraints, which were currently holding him down to a surprisingly comfortable chair. Well, I can't do much of that game whilst I can't even clap sarcastically at your evil plans. With minimal reluctance, Shigaraki untied Midoriya's restraints, taking a cautious step backwards. Right, can we get the whole quirk questions over and done with? I have a strange feeling I'll need some rage for the claw machine. I asked an informant acquaintance to dig up your files, and they discovered you didn't have a registered quirk until you got into UA. He clapped his hands together before opening his arms questioningly. So, what's the deal with that? Midoriya often spoke without thinking, and this was, unfortunately, one of those times. Statistically speaking, it was by far the most probable outcome. Yeah, I want it in a fist fight, he spoke nonchalantly. You fist fight? Wait, you can get quirks from fist fights? Midoriya shrugged. I wasn't the one fist fighting. Shigaraki blinked, but didn't have the opportunity to do much else before Midoriya stepped towards the claw machine, a look of unadulterated rage burning in his eyes. The teenager proceeded to punch a hole into the side of the machine, pulling out the Eraserhead plush as if it were the heart of the game, stuffing it into Shigaraki's hands mercilessly. Good luck with Kurogiri, bro. In a way that could only be described as rude, hurtful, and uncalled for, the wall exploded inwards, throwing the occupants of the room around like bowling pins. Although it was an entertaining imagery, but it was less entertaining for Midoriya than it could have been, considering the fact he most likely gained concussion and broke his days since Midoriya needed serious medical attention and streak. He got a whole 5 days. Nezu was undeniably someone Midoriya had been looking forward to meeting for a while. However, when he had imagined meeting the principal, it hadn't been with the intention to lie to his face. Now, it was usually not recommended for one person to lie to another who was of a higher intelligence level, but Midoriya didn't really have much of a choice. Ah, Midoriya-kun, I've been expecting you. The chair Nezu was in slowly rotated to face the door, which Midoriya was currently standing in front of. Due to his lacking height, however, he was not visible, and it appeared that the chair had turned around on its own. Scrambling to his paws, Nezu climbed onto his desk and settled gazing down at Midoriya. This is about my quirk, isn't it? The student spoke, voice dripping with weariness in a manner that almost convinced the teacher to throw coffee at the teenager. This, unfortunately, would not have helped much. I'm afraid so, he replied, kicking his paws out in order to gain a more comfortable position on his table. Yeah, I got bit by this guy a few months back, and I think he infected me. Nezu raised a non-existent eyebrow. Just one bite and the molecules of my bones decided they'd appreciate their personal space more than, being the calcium sticks they're supposed to be. Midoriya somehow managed to keep a straight face. And the floating? He shrugged. You know how some parents throw their child in the air a bit for... Midoriya cut off what was almost a profanity. For fun? It's like that, but Gravity is a parent and I am the child. You should see how fun it is. All the security footage of Midoriya using the floating ability had shown a rather disgruntled expression on his face, often hand in hand with him shouting varied swear words as loud as he was physically able to while ascending. I'm afraid to say I'm a white-haired one for all. Midoriya pulled the same face one might after being told that their high score in a game had been beaten by a determined cat that was as high as a kite after the surgery, trademarked. Ah. This meeting was actually more along the lines of informing you that you should be prepared for more quirks to start coming in soon. I'd guess that your next quirk will be Danger Sense. Midoriya blinked owlishly. How do you know what quirks I'll be getting? Oh boy, Nezu muttered. Todoroki reminded Midoriya of a cat in some ways. He was occasionally painfully subtle in his requests. Seriously, who stares longingly at other people's food through the dorm window whilst breathing onto the aforementioned window instead of, oh, Midoriya didn't know, knocking and asking? In a large contrast to this, he also had a bit of a habit of being overly straightforward, which Midoriya would appreciate if it weren't directed at him all of the time. You weren't born with a quirk, were you? Midoriya's eyes shut open, and he forced himself into a sitting position. Squinting, he could barely make out the form of his classmate sitting in a chair in the corner of the room. Hatman? He asked blearily. No, it's Todoroki. Todoroki-san, it's 3 in the morning. What are you doing here? It's only 2:48 actually. But I'm here because you weren't born with a quirk, and I want to know how you got one. If I tell you, will you leave? Yes. Right. Midoriya yawned widely. I got it from a guy in an alleyway. Now, please, let me sleep. And with that, Midoriya turned over and pretended to ignore the other occupant of his room. Todoroki was still there when he woke up. Instead of answering more of Todoroki's questions, Midoriya instead opted to burst into tears whenever confronted by him. It was rather effective. He's been requesting to see you, Midoriya-kun, Nezu admitted, since he was caught. Right, let's get this over and done with, then. Midoriya sighed, pushing open the door to the room next to All For One. He took his seat, fidgeting for a while before finding a comfortable position. Is this even legal? He asked himself under his breath as the glass cleared to reveal All Might's Irish nemesis. Why, hello there, Izuku. Midoriya blanched at the use of his first name, barely resisting the urge to verbalize his disgust. All For One, he responded, voice calm and collected. How have you been? The student blinked once, twice, a third time, just for shits and giggles. Better now that you're not trying to kill anyone. It's good to see that you haven't changed since I last saw you with my own eyes. Were Midoriya any less sleep-deprived, or if he hadn't been haunted by the face of his classmates lingering outside his dorm room and scratching at the door to let him in, he may have found the sentence suspicious. However, that wasn't the case, and he promptly overlooked it. I must say, that's a lovely quirk you have now. Thanks, Izuku responded through gritted teeth. I got it for my birthday. I don't believe that's true. Pulling a pen and a piece of paper from his trouser pocket, he laid it out and began to draw a picture to better translate his current line. Once he was happy with the results, he held it up. This here? He pointed at a stick figure that had a misshapen head, one arm, and uneven legs. Is me. My father is over here. He pointed to a stick figure with no torso and half a head. He gave it to me as a birthday present. Easy. Unfortunately, breaking both his arms and his hands had reduced his artistic abilities enough that other artists would sob over the lost talent. I most certainly did not, All For One huffed. If he had eyes, he would have rolled them. Midoriya tutted. I didn't even mention you. Look, Izuku, I know about One For All. Shaking his head, Midoriya stood up to leave. What's that? The only quirk I know is the birthday quirk I got from my father. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have business to attend to. He did, in fact, not have business to attend to. With that, Midoriya walked out of the room, unable to hear the, "But I'm your father," from All For One. Probably for the best, Nezu thought. Aizawa sat at the table, glancing across it to Inko, trying his best to ignore Bakugo glaring holes into his side from his position in the room. Shinsou made direct eye contact with Todoroki. He'd heard about the strange habit of trying to break into Midoriya's room just to sit in his chair. Todoroki ignored him. Right, Aizawa spoke up. We're all here for the same reason, right? Murmurs and nods filled the room in response. I'm glad I'm not the only one to figure it out, Bakugo sighed. Well, it's not every day I found out my student got a quirk from All For One, is it? Nezu sat beside Midoriya as they watched the live footage together. At least he don't know about One For All, right? Midoriya chuckled, half to Nezu, half to himself. He was not very convincing. Notes. Ida isn't in this meeting because he wholeheartedly trusts Suzuku.